What's up, guys? We're pulling up to Walmart to show you guys what I pick up that gets me through a week. I've talked about this before, but there's really no secrets as far as foods that you need to choose for bodybuilding. I am not a super creative person as far as like making food. If that's what you're looking for from this video, I'm sorry to inform you that that will not be happening. I am very much a meathead. Stick to the basics, just like I do with my training, just like I do with everything that I talk to you guys about. So you're not going to see me buying anything super wild, but I figured it'd be good to get you guys some insight into what it is I pick, why I pick it, and go from there. Let's go. Gotta love the dickhead walking into Walmart with the camera. Let me get this and push it. Let's do this. So I am not good at cooking or remembering to eat my vegetables. I go really basic with my vegetables just to get some greens in. And things like this, like baby spinach and spring mix, works perfect. I can throw it in the pan, saute it with the chicken and oil, and it just works out perfect. I'm almost out of spinach, but I got plenty of spring mix, so I'm just gonna get the spinach today. Typically, we wanna go for like the darker vegetables. Iceberg lettuce, shit like this, doesn't have a lot of nutrients in it. Like all it's gonna do is just put fluff to your meal. Now, if you're really deep in prep and you just need some volume, you're like absolutely starving, something like that could be potentially an option just to put some volume into your meal. But for your first choices when it comes to vegetables, that's not where I would go. Asparagus is also a good one. It's not something that I've been eating recently, but it's something that I like to put in prep because it does have diuretic properties, so it can kind of help flush some water. Be prepared that your pee's gonna smell. So I like asparagus a lot with beef. Just throw it in the pan with the beef and put it in my rice and just eat it all together. I try to go for the easiest things I possibly can when it comes to this, because if it's difficult for me to do, I'm probably just gonna say fuck it and not do it. I have a bunch of these at home, but I figured I'd go ahead and talk about these. Holy guacamole, this stuff is fantastic. Spicy is pretty good, and I'm not a big fan of like chunky, but this is perfect. Typically do a lot of oils, especially in my off season, because I don't want the extra fiber or extra food volume. But as I get deeper into prep, I'll start using something like guacamole, because it does have fiber from avocados. It's a great fat source as well. It's a great way to change up the flavor and stuff of your meals. You can do like these ones here that are big and just kind of divvy it out, but I tend to prefer the cups because it stays fresh for longer. Like if I only have to use a small portion of that cup, it doesn't go as bad as fast. So that's a great option for some fats. So unfortunately in prep, this is no longer in my diet, but in my off season, Tuttle usually lets me use something like potato bread. It's very light, it's not heavy on the stomach, and there's no like wheat and things like that, so you don't have to worry about any digestive issues. It's a great option for your off season, just to do something other than rice that's not insanely difficult to eat. And then sourdough bread is also a great option. It's a fermented bread, so it's really good on the gut. Not any major issues as far as like inflammation and stuff, but looks like someone had a little snack. It wasn't me. Fruit is a big thing with my preps, well, my diet in general. I use a lot, but trying to go through a bunch of fresh fruit is a pain in the ass. I always go with frozen. These work awesome in smoothies. They work great in my cream of rice or my oatmeal. Blueberries is another big one that I go for as well. Off season, we have a little bit more options sometimes. Pineapple is one that we'll go for. Mango is one that we'll go for. I don't do the pineapple right now because at this point in prep, the amount that I get is like really sad. I get more strawberries, I get more blueberries, so I tend to go for those just because it makes me feel like I'm eating that much more. Fruit's not that filling, but it does give us a little bit more stuff to look forward to versus like 2 pieces of pineapple and go, what the fuck is this? I remember the first time I did that last year, I was like, oh, pineapple sounds really good. And I looked at the weight and I weighed it out. I was like, what the fuck? Again, I'm bad at eating my vegetables. Frozen stuff is great because it doesn't go bad. Pepper and onion blend has been super good. I don't do too much pepper and onion just because the onion can really upset my stomach sometimes. Frozen stir fries like this or the deluxe stir fry, either one of these are really good. I'm just going with the peppers and onions. Kind of gives it that fajita type taste. I'll show you one of my sauces that I really like to use. I've talked about it before, the Melinda's. We'll get over to it in a bit, but that goes great with some chicken and peppers or beef and peppers. This is gold, 0 calories. This hot sauce is perfect. I am not a big spicy person. I don't want a ton of spice. That one has just enough spice, really good flavor. It goes great on beef, it goes great on chicken. I could drink that shit. So Melinda's, you did awesome. Some other things to potentially go for when you're in a prep setting. A lot of condiments have a lot of calories in them. So you're gonna have to stay away from the barbecues. You can check out things like G Hughes, but it still has 10 calories and you have to pay attention to how much. 30 grams. I guarantee most of you using these things are just dumping it on your food going, it's not that much calories. If you do 2-3 servings of it at a time, you're going to add up calories very, very quickly. You can always guarantee mustards are gonna be great. You gotta pay attention to like honey mustard, depending on which type. If you go with the French's, 10 calories per serving. Again, you gotta pay attention to your weight, like how much you're using. There's other honey mustards that have just a shitload of calories in them, so just make sure you look at the label, pay attention to that stuff. But mustards and hot sauces are probably going to be your best bets here. This cow rose rice is awesome. Really good consistency, sits really well, it tastes really good, but this cow rose botan rice, whatever the fuck you wanna call it, is awesome. The other ones that I typically recommend for my clients, jasmine rice or basmati rice, either one of those do really well. I'm not typically a brown rice person just because of the extra nutrients that are in there. It tends to be a little bit harder to digest, can be a little harder on the stomach. So white rice will be perfectly fine. There's no good and bad rice, it's just rice. Get that out of your head that brown rice is better than white rice. It's just rice. So red meat is a very good option as far as a protein source. It has creatine in there naturally. Typically the options that I'm gonna go for would be something like top sirloin, something like this. They have the thin version as well that makes it really easy to just toss in a pan and cook up real fast. Or you can always go for ground beef, and just depending on how lean you want it, they usually have a couple of options. 93.7 is what I'll typically go for. That's about the same as the sirloin. It's in that ballpark, but you can go leaner. You can go 96.3, or even sometimes they'll have a 99, but I think 96 is about the leanest I see right now. But fortunately, I have Flex Pro meals for all of my meats, so I'm not gonna need to pick up any of those today. Just wanted to go over some options with you, show you guys what I tend to lean towards. Beef is not your enemy in prep. Chicken, we all know, is a staple of bodybuilding. Typically, I'm just gonna go for chicken breast. Just some basic stuff like this. Slice them, grill them, throw them in a pan, throw them in an air fryer, whatever. Some people really like chicken thighs, but the thing to pay attention to with chicken thighs is that they are higher in fat. So if you're gonna go with chicken thighs, treat it like you would red meat. I'm not gonna add extra fats to a red meat meal. If I'm doing chicken breast or turkey, I'm gonna add fats to that meal, unless we're to a point where we really have to pull that. So I'm not a big turkey fan, so I don't usually go for turkey, but ground turkey is usually what I would go for. The turkey breast just comes out really tough. I've never been able to do that right, and maybe someone can tell me how to do it better, but I typically just lean for chicken. The biggest thing to make sure that you don't get tired of the same food sources is learn how to cook them different, learn how to use different sauces, different condiments, those kinds of things. That's what's gonna help you with longevity, more so than just, oh, I guess I'm eating chicken again. Some seafood options as well. Salmon is gonna be treated like beef, so it's gonna be around the same amount of like fat content, and typically about maybe a little bit more weight-wise, like to get the same amount of protein. But salmon's a great one that has the fat source there. Or if we're gonna go with something really lean that doesn't have all the extra fat, cod is typically what I'm gonna go for. You'll see a ton of people eat tilapia. Tilapia is a garbage fish. They only are farm raised, there's none in the wild, and they live in their own feces. And they eat it. It's pretty fucking gross. So if you're gonna eat tilapia, just understand that you are putting in a shitty quality food. So I don't go for tilapia, I'll go for cod or some other type of white fish other than tilapia. I like cod because it always reminds me of fish sticks. No, I'm not a gay fish.
Let me ask the guys in the audience a question. Do you like fish sticks? Yes! What are you, gay fish?
But it tastes just like fish sticks if you guys have ever had those. Shrimp is a good option as well. You could do something like shrimp. The problem with shrimp, basically one of these whole bags is gonna be a meal. You gotta eat a lot of shrimp to get the same amount of protein, but it's a good thing to just kind of switch things up every once in a while. The thing to pay attention to, if you're gonna go with something like salmon, smoked salmon is not the same thing as regular salmon. Smoked salmon is gonna be a lot higher in sodium and could potentially throw off your water balance and things like that. So don't just go for smoked salmon because, oh, it's salmon. Go for a regular salmon and learn how to cook it or buy it from Flex Pro Meals. I'm very basic when it comes to seasonings and such. I typically lean towards sauces over seasonings, but salt is extremely important. So Himalayan pink salt is what I typically go for. Salt your meals. Your body needs the sodium. If you don't have sodium, you're not going to adequately hydrate your muscles. Plus, your food tastes better. Like, this shouldn't be about how shitty can I make my food taste to get myself lean. It doesn't make you more hardcore just because it doesn't taste as good. Make sure you're salting your food because it is gonna make it taste better. It's gonna help out with hydration. It's gonna help out with pumps when your food gets really low to where you don't have enough carbs to really keep you full. Gotta have the salt, super important. And then there's a few condiments, or a few seasonings that I'll go for every once in a while. This stuff is awesome for red meat, really good steak seasoning. Again, you just gotta pay attention to the sodium. That's an awesome one. Mrs. Dash has a bunch of options as well if you really like seasonings and such that don't have salt in it at all, so you can add your own salt, so you can be a little bit more in control of that sodium amount. Olive oil is a great option. Avocado oil is a good one as well. And that's typically what I will use on my meals. The thing to pay attention to is, see how this is plastic? This is probably a really shitty quality olive oil. Go for the glass bottles, because olive oil, when it sits on a shelf for too long, can go bad. And you have to really be careful with olive oil because it is highly faked. So typically if you're gonna go with an oil, make sure that it is in a glass bottle. I don't use ones that come in a plastic bottle for that reason, that they typically tend to be not actually olive oil. When that has olive oil on the label, they tend to be a blend. You can do coconut oil if you like coconut oil. I'm not a massive fan of it, but avocado oil is a great option. Probably don't want to go with canola or anything like that. And then for cooking purposes, something like a spray oil is going to be your best option, because you don't want to put oil on the pan and then try to figure out your measurements and whatnot. A spray like this will work really well to make sure like your eggs or your chicken or whatever doesn't stick to your pan. Oatmeal. I love oatmeal. There's a lot of people who talk about not eating oatmeal because of digestion issues. Never had an issue as far as digestion with oatmeal, so I always go for it. But if it causes you problems, don't eat it. If anyone knows me and has seen me post-workout, they all know that I eat my Honey Nut Cheerios post-workout with my Labrada Pro Series Hydro. Honey Nut Cheerios is a great option just for some quick carbs after your meal or after your workout, just to get it in your system very quickly. Not gonna go for any of the other cereals, unfortunately. They would be a lot more fun, but I enjoy my Honey Nut Cheerios. Peanut butter or almond butter is also a great option. I'll typically go for the Smucker's Creamy. I don't like chunky. If you have a tendency to want to overeat, especially peanut butter, don't go for things like Jif. This stuff is like candy because they add sugar to it. Go for the natural ones. There's less tendency to want to binge on it. Or go for almond butter, because most people are not as like super hyped up about getting almond butter over peanut butter. And then of course the lifeblood of any prep later on is coffee. This one is my absolute favorite, the Kodiak Attack. Really good. Black Rifle coffee is fantastic. You also support veterans, so good calls, good caffeine. Something you often see a lot of competitors do to try and curb appetite or just give themselves something to do is chew gum. So you have a lot of options here, and you can for sure chew gum. It's not gonna be a problem, but don't think that it's just a free-for-all. There's different sugar alternatives in there that can mess up your gut really bad, especially if you're really deep in prep. So just be careful with your gum intake just because they're sugar-free or calorie-free. The thing that some people don't know, if it's under 5 calories, they can write 0 calories. That is a guideline that is in place. So just because it says 0 calories doesn't mean it's just a free-for-all. Rice cakes are awesome. It is a great way to get something that might be a little bit more enjoyable into the diet. In the off season, I'll go for some different flavors and stuff like caramel or chocolate or the apple cinnamon. Caramel is my favorite. It is an option I can choose, but he wants me to go with like the more all natural ones that they don't sell here at Walmart that are the super bland ones. And I'm not at that point where everything tastes good yet. So I'd rather just eat rice and whatever, but rice cakes are a good option for you as well, for a more snacky choice if you are an individual who needs a snack type option. Soda is my weakness. Diet soda, obviously, I'm not gonna be drinking sugar. I'll typically stick to one a day. Even my off season, I'll stick to one a day just because I don't wanna be pounding that stuff, and it can actually lead to like, all of a sudden you start craving sweeter and sweeter things. Just pay attention to your digestion deeper in prep, because as we get to that point where like food is really low, our stomach is more prone to issues with extra stuff. The selection here kind of blows, but a go-to for me is always the little Diet Dr. Pepper. If you haven't had the Diet Dr. Pepper and cream soda, that one's the shit. Diet root beer is always money. I've been on a Sprite kick too, so Diet Sprite's always a good option. My son loves those too, so. Another really staple product for a lot of bodybuilders is eggs and egg whites. There's the Happy Egg Company is really good. They have another version of these that are like in a blue container they're awesome. And you can tell a difference. Like these ones are gonna be a little darker on the yolk and the blue ones are like orange. It's crazy how dark they are, but that just means there's a lot more nutrients in them. These ones like this, like these great value eggs, are pretty shitty quality and typically don't have all the same nutrients, and they typically are fortified with stuff because they don't have the good quality in there. So the organic free range eggs is what I'll typically go for when I am having eggs. It's the way my work schedule is set up. Like it doesn't make sense for me to like cook eggs and take it with me. So that's why I just do the overnight oats with protein. But I do love some good eggs. The other point to touch on is egg whites. So these containers, like you choose whichever one you want. Like they're all gonna be about the same, whether it's just this or the cage free, but don't drink them, cook them and eat them. Because when you drink it, there's two things. One, your body's not gonna absorb it as well. And two, it can cause some serious digestive issues. The first time you drink that and it fucks your stomach up, you're gonna go, I shouldn't have done that. Because you're gonna be on the toilet for a long time, your stomach's gonna be a lot of pain, and you're gonna hate looking at eggs for a long time. So cook them, eat them, and move on, or just don't have them at all. I think that's it, so. It doesn't need to be this crazy complicated thing when you go to the grocery store of like, let me find all of these alternatives and all of this and that. It's like, just stick to the basics. Chicken, beef, fish, rice, potatoes. Those are the kind of things that are going to help you the most. And the way to make those foods work for you is just cook them different. Different sauces, different whatever you got to do to make it taste good so that you enjoy it. At some point, if you're in a prep, you're going to be hungry enough to where you're going to want to eat whatever. If you're in the off season, I think that's when making your food taste good is the most important, because when you get to a point where food amounts are ridiculously high, if it tastes like shit, you're gonna have that much harder of a time trying to get it down. I've never eaten my food bland as a bodybuilder, and I've done a pretty damn good job of getting in condition and putting on size. So just because you eat it bland doesn't make you hardcore. This fucking self-checkout shit is bullshit. If I wanted to work, I would fucking work here. Flex Pro Meals has been absolutely a godsend as far as time and energy, because I don't have to buy my meats anymore. They come pre-cooked, pre-packaged straight to my door. Pop the containers open, they're ready to go right then and there. So that has been a massive difference. If you have a hard time cooking your food or remembering to do that kind of stuff, or just don't like cooking in general, it's a really good option just to make things easier on you. So check out Flex Pro Meals. Everything else I just get here, vegetables, rice, like those kinds of things are super easy. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this and it helps you out a little bit next time you go to the grocery store to help you with them gains. See you next time.